got some new channels with different information. Go ahead and check them out. If you want to be a member of that channel, go ahead and subscribe. The link's below in the first link. Just go ahead and check those out. All right, so this is something that happened to me recently. I went to a credit union and they had a nifty little credit card. So I applied for the credit card. I'm not used to doing business with credit unions. And then they asked me for proof of income. So I went home and got some pay stubs. And then they asked me for my bank statements. And fortunately for me, I was able to, because I had my laptop and I was able to print up, because the way it's set up is you can download your bank statement and then you can email it. I was able to download my bank statements, email it to the girl, and then shortly after that, I got the credit card. What does this mean for the future? Banks are asking for pay stubs. Well, this was a credit union. This wasn't a Chase or a Bank of America or a PNC or a Truist. This was a credit union. But this whole thing got me to thinking, is this the future where when you go apply for anything, credit card, car loan, mortgage, we'll talk about that in a minute. But I feel that in the future, anytime you apply for any financial product, whether it's a credit card, line of credit, loan, they're going to want to see proof of income. And for the longest period of time, we've been able to get a lot of credit off of stated income. Now banks are, and this is something that I think is going to happen over the next 3 to 4 years, where every time you apply for something, they're going to see proof of income. Because essentially, let me explain to you why. The criminal economy is wreaking havoc on banks. The number of people who are getting car loans and things and literally walking away. And I was watching this video, this guy who does videos about cars, and he was like, all these cars are repo. And this is something that I personally know from being in the car rental business, that people who are late on their cars have a high propensity for damage. And he was just pointing and these cars had all kinds of issues. They had broken windshields, they were wrecked, they were messed up, which depreciates the car even more. So these cars are even cheaper than if they just repoed it and the car was fine. So banks are taking a lot of losses. And one of the things that will hit, and also this credit union checked my Experian. Experian is my lowest credit score. You wanna know why? I applied for 1, 2, 3. Experian is my most checked credit bureau. Experian, it gets hits the most. That is my lowest score. My second hit credit bureau is TransUnion. And hardly anyone ever touches Equifax. It's the weirdest thing. But essentially, because banks are suffering a lot of losses, they're really amping up their prevention measures. And what I just feel, once again, this is not happening I was kind of surprised because I knew credit unions offered a little bit different, so I can understand they wanted to see my pay stubs, but to see my pay stubs and to actually see the money going into my personal checking account, that was new. That was really, really new. And I had that information, so I provided it and I got the credit card. But one of the things that I don't think a lot of people are going to be ready for is the provision and the providing of data. Because essentially, like right now in the credit card space, and I'll tell you, I was thinking about doing a credit card channel and I just decided I wasn't, and I'm gonna tell you why. The number of people who are rendering credit card advice is staggering. And I know from personal experience, stuff that I see in these credit card videos is 100% wrong. I know, like I'll give you an example. There are videos that were telling you that Truist Bank will give you up to $50,000 line of credit. It's not true. How do I know? I applied for a Truist credit card and a line of credit, and I asked for 50, and they asked for my tax return.
They what?
And I was like, hey, you know, I got my tax returns. Let's take it up to 100K without providing tax returns, but you're not going to get 50K. I know this for a fact. And one of the things that you will see is all these banks that are going to provide credit on stated income. Once again, in the next 3 years, I think that's going to go away. You're not going to be able to get anything, especially in the realm of business. And with business credit cards, with American Express, and this is really interesting. When I first signed up for American Express, they asked to see my business bank accounts. Then the second time, and this is what's kind of fun. American Express works on spending and payment, and I had a lot of spend. And then the second time I applied for American Express products, they didn't ask to look at my bank account. And then the third time I went, they did ask to look at my bank account, but my spending had come down. What we're going to have going forward is you're going to have some proof of your income, and do not be surprised if they ask for backup proof. Because here's another thing, and I'm beginning to, as I make this video, I'm beginning to understand. There's a lot of stuff talking about create your own pay stubs. Now, this is something like you could sign up with ADP, and I'm going to explain this really carefully. Let's say you're doing DoorDash, Uber, or Lyft, or maybe you're doing all three of them. You're doing DoorDash, Uber, and Lyft, right? And what you do is you have your money go to your business banking account, and then every 2 weeks you issue yourself a pay stub using ADP or Gusto or something like that. That's perfectly fine. But what I find to be interesting is if you're using credit cards to create a pay stub, that's going to be somewhat, I would call iffy income, because once you use up your credit limit, you can't use your credit anymore, and you got to pay your credit back. So it gets to be a little interesting. So as I make this video, I begin to kind of think, because banks watch YouTube, banks watch TikTok, all of the videos that you and I see, they also see. And they know there's a bunch of people on here talking about create your own pay stubs, create your own pay stubs. So you could have a situation, well, the thing is, if you're creating your own pay stubs and the money goes through, because ADP will not give you a fake pay stub. If you don't properly send the money through their systems, ADP is not giving you a fake pay stub. But essentially, they're going to ask for 2 months of bank statements and stuff. And if you can't provide that, you're not going to get the line of credit, the credit card, the car loan, and also mortgages. Mortgages are really, really interesting. The mortgage process is very, very interesting. You got to have 2 years of tax returns that they're going to verify. Then they're going to verify the money in your bank account. They're going to verify. There's a lot of verification that goes on with getting the mortgage. And what I kind of feel is going to happen is that the verification is going to get even more intense for a mortgage, and the verification for other financial products is going to get very intense, because like I said, I had the information and I got the credit card, but I was just surprised because it's like and then I was like, next thing they're going to ask me for is my tax returns, but they didn't. And that's what's going to happen. And I can tell you, getting a line of credit, a business line of credit, they're going to want to see tax returns, except for Truist used to be you could get $50,000 without showing anything. In PNC, you still can get, if your personal credit report, and that was one of the big issues, because I applied for a lot of credit, so I had a lot of inquiries, which is going to go away next summer. So we're about 7-8 months away from my credit report being really clean, with a lot of these inquiries falling off. And I'm just not really applying for a lot of credit, because essentially I applied for this credit card and I am not going to apply for anything personal. And this was a personal credit card. I'm not going to apply for anything personal for quite some time. So, I may apply for something business, but that will be pretty much it. And one of the things that I'm seeing, and one of the things that I am looking at, is how the banking landscape is dramatically changing. And once again, I say 3 years where this is going to be a common practice, which is going to start tripping up a lot of people, because here's the thing. They don't tell you up front that they're going to ask you for this information. So what you do is you go ahead and apply, and then bam, on the back end, it's like, we need this, we need this. And they've already pulled your credit report. They've already done all this other stuff. And it's like, we need this information. And you're kind of stuck, because if you don't give it to them, they're definitely not going to give you the credit card or the car loan. And, I had a really interesting conversation with the girl at the credit union, and this is kind of and she said this is something that was starting to happen more and more and more because banks consistently change their application rules. So I'm glad that I'm pretty well set on cars and other things, because I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not going to be applying for any personal credit for anything. Who knows? Essentially, what I'm trying to do is get under Chase's 524. And if you don't know what that is, if you've gotten 5 credit cards, personal credit cards, whether it's a credit card or a line of credit in the last 2 years, unless Chase sends you a direct offer, Chase is going to turn you down. Chase is going to turn you down for any of their credit products, personal or business. So next year, I'm going to get some Chase business credit cards. And that's one of the things that I'm probably going to go for, a Chase line of credit. But what you want to do, one of the things you want to look at is be in a position where you can actually position yourself with your business credit. And this is something that I'm going to be talking about quite a bit in the future, because essentially what I did is I stacked up my personal, because my personal scores are like, let's see, TransUnion's 815, Equifax is 799, and Experian is 783. They were 800, and then some things happened and my scores kind of changed. They're constantly changing, but they're not doing these huge changes. Because at one point, all my credit scores, except for the Experian, because the Experian, they get hit. I feel that once I'm finished with, because I got something in my mind, that's something I want to apply for, but once I get past that, I feel I'll be in a really good position. But Experian gets hit the most. Experian gets hit. This credit union, they hit Experian. PNC, they hit Experian. Truist hits Equifax, I believe. I would have to check. It's real important for you to know what bureau they hit, because at the moment, my credit bureau with the least amount of inquiries is Equifax, because no one really hits that. And I'm about to go dive into that. And there's some other stuff that I'm going to test, because my credit scores are pretty solid across the board, but the inquiries issues, and this is something that's going to get much, much better next year. Much, much better. Now, let's talk about, why is my Experian credit report hit the most? Experian verifies social security numbers. And I feel this is why a lot of creditors are moving toward Experian. And it's just a matter of time before Equifax and TransUnion starts doing the thing. I don't understand why they haven't done what Experian has done. Because this right here has been a big movement to bring Experian as the market leader. And my experience, and this is something else that's funny. When your credit score is high and you I apply for this credit card, my credit score did not change. If your credit score is in the high 700s, I would say above 750, you could apply for stuff and your credit score doesn't change at all. It doesn't. But if you have a lower credit score, if you're in the 600s, let's say you're 670, and you're going to see a 5 or 10 point drop. And my understanding is because your credit score is already low. And what I kind of have seen is if you have a 650 and you apply for a bunch of credit, your credit score is going to go to about 620. Because the lower your credit score is, the more damage that applications for credit does to your credit score. This is the future, man. This is the future. If you're out here applying for credit without understanding the situation of credit and understanding how banks are doing stuff, and the verification of income is becoming very, very important. And this is something that we'll be talking about in the future. So stay tuned. All right, that's all I got for you today. I'll talk to you in the next one.